my boys at MFST, MyFantasySportsTalk.com, on the My Fantasy Podcast, Dan, the man Schalk, and Brandon B. Reid. These guys put in work. There's no doubt. There is mutual respect there on all three accounts. From me to them, from them to me, and then, of course, Brandon to Dan. In the My Fantasy Podcast, My Fantasy Sports Talk, Fantasy Football League, this is my third season in the league. And your boy here, Thomas Take, has had some rough sledding. There's no doubt. Some of which, my fault, my bad, my boo-boo, Royce Freeman. No doubt about it. One of the worst picks I've ever made in fantasy football history. In my history of playing fantasy football, Royce Freeman, bad idea. Not a good idea. I shouldn't have picked him, but he was there. I thought he looked good in the preseason. Shouldn't have made that move. My mistake. But Leonard Fournette going down, Sony Michel's knee, bad luck. AJ Green now with this injury. I had to do something. And I started the season 2-1. Keep that in mind, folks. Started the season 2-1. Over the next 5 weeks, I would lose all of those matchups. I would lose 5 straight. From 2-1 to 2-6. The outside shot looking in. And when you have a 14-team league featuring, fantasy fanatics like myself, featuring gentlemen that I'd like to think, I do think, not that I'd like to, but the majority of them know what they're doing. It's not as if we have a bunch of knuckleheads in this league. We got guys in this league that have been playing fantasy for a long time. But in a 14-team league, it's very tough. It's very thin. It's competitive. You have a 25 move limit, I believe. Maybe it's 30. But you have a move limit, and you have to really hold on to who you got. You got to hope that you have a good draft. You got to be really, really strategic in the draft. And I waited very, very late on a quarterback. I did not take one. The quarterback that I picked, in my opinion, has been the best fantasy quarterback all year. And that's Matt Ryan. Hit one stinker. But outside of that, he's been fantastic. He's been great. He leads the NFL in passing yards, I believe. At least he's top 2, top 3. Ryan has done really well. Pun intended. So, I knew that. I knew that Matt Ryan had all the potential. He's got all the weapons. He's got a new weapon in Calvin Ridley. Tevin Coleman has been a stud, filling in for Devontae Freeman. And I've been a Matt Ryan guy. I've always liked Matt Ryan. But I knew that as long as Matt Ryan continued to play well, and as long as I was losing, there was no sense in having that guy on my team because I'm still losing. Why not get something for him? In a trade that I made with Casey Stump Jumpers, it was a 5-player for 5-player trade. Unprecedented in the My Fantasy Sports Talk League. I always like to press the envelope. I always like to not just come to take part, but to take over. I always feel like I'm just one move behind, that I need that one move to put me over the top. And I tried like hell for weeks to get a fantasy football trade going and to change the fate of my season. And I just couldn't get it going. I tried with Dylan, tried with Orlando, tried with some gentlemen in the league that I haven't really met, but people that I've played fantasy with in this league for the past couple of years. And thankfully, I was checking the message boards, and I did see that Casey Stump Jumpers was looking to trade Alvin Kamara, and he wanted 2 running backs. Well, I got 2 running backs, Fournette and Michel, that have done nothing but either sit on my bench or do really well when they're healthy. When they're healthy. So I was able to unload Leonard Fournette. I was able to unload the wide receiver known as Jarvis Landry in Cleveland. I was able to unload Matt Ryan, who I didn't want to have to trade, but I knew that I've won more championships with mediocre, average quarterbacks than with great ones. And in a 14-team league where you have actual quarterbacks available to you, guys like Alex Smith, you're able to just really stream the quarterbacks. So I threw Matt Ryan in the trade. And there was another player that I sent back, and Austin Eckler, who was a decent RB2, especially a decent running back if Melvin Gordon were to go down. I knew that. I really like Eckler. I was actually having a tough time parting ways with him. And Casey wanted to send me Alvin Kamara. I said, well, I need 2 running backs. Alvin Kamara is great, but I want Dalvin Cook as well. I knew that Kamara is elite. I said as much on my Fantasy Sports Talk page that if I had the first overall pick in a fantasy football draft, that I would take Alvin Kamara first overall over anyone. And I was right. This guy has had another stellar season. I think this guy's going to go on to be one of the best running backs in pro football history. I really do. And I'm not overstating that. This guy's done nothing but dominate the game of football since his arrival. So you see that it wasn't that Adrian Peterson was past his prime. You see that the Saints knew that they had something that was a generational type talent like an AP in Alvin Kamara. This guy is just, he does things that are just unbelievable. I watch him and marvel. I'm marveled by guys like Zeke. I'm marveled by guys like McCaffrey. I'm marveled by guys like David Johnson. I'm marveled by guys like James Conner, who I really think is the breakout player of the year. But Alvin Kamara was the breakout player of last year, and he's continuing to show that he's not just a fluke. And I don't think James Conner is either, by the way. But I was really elated to see that I could possibly get a trade like this going, and to see that I got it, and to see that I'm now 3-6, coming off a dominant victory led by Alvin Kamara. With full faith in some of the young guns that I have. We have a scrappy group of players now at wide receiver with Sutton, Tate, Funchess. I have a stud tight end in George Kittle. I made another error in drafting defenses with Jacksonville. Very disappointed in the effort that they gave me this year. I actually dropped them because I was just so frustrated over that. Maybe I pushed the gun pulled the trigger too soon on that. We'll find out. But Casey also picked them up, so I technically traded him Jacksonville's D in the trade too. But whatever. Defenses are defenses. I'll stream those too and figure it out. I'm not really that worried about that. And I added Alex Smith, who I think is a reliable, steady train that just keeps on rolling. So is he the elite fantasy option that Matt Ryan is? No, but I got 2 healthy running backs with Kamara and now Cook. Cook is coming back. He's looking pretty decent in limited action in Sunday's game yesterday in Minnesota. But I know that Kirk Cousins really needed him to come back, and I think it will help him post this game that they just had. So when I have 2 healthy running backs, when I have receivers that can get me maybe 10 points a week, when I have 2 running backs that can get me around 50 a week, I think I'm in pretty good shape. I don't know if I can make a run at the playoffs. I'm going to try like hell. I'm going to be checking it every week, trying to make moves, because this one trade really jacked me up. It really got the juices flowing. I was down in the dumps. I was not feeling good about my team. It sucks that AJ Green is out, but Dan Schalk and Brandon Reid both know that all I need is one trade to get myself back in it, and to know that I'm 1-0 since this trade. I'm not looking at 2-1 to 2-6. I'm looking at pre-trade and after trade. Right now I'm 1-0. This is a new dawn, a new era, a new team as we tread along for the ride. And I believe I play Dan this upcoming week, and Dan knows that my team is better than what it was. I went from unhealthy to healthy. I went from Matt Ryan to Alex Smith, but this is a 14-team league, and these guys know that great quarterbacks are not needed to win a championship. You need depth. I also added Theo Riddick. I also added Elijah McGuire. I made a lot of decent moves to solidify my bench, and I'm excited. I really am. I think if I could go from 2-6 to a playoff appearance, that would really show my capabilities as a fantasy football manager. And that's pretty awesome. George Kittle, Kyle Rudolph, as well as my backup tight end, who I started both of them this week. They got me a combined 24, Kittle with 21, Rudolph with 3. I was hoping for a little bit more from Rudolph. Maybe I'll go that route again. We'll see. We will see. But nonetheless, I can actually recap this week as a win, my first win in 5 weeks. November's been good to me so far. November's been very good. November has been very good to me so far. I've won all 4 of my leagues this week. Go from 1-4 to 5-4, or 2-4 to 5-4. Go from 1-4 to 5-4 in my work league. It's just been great. So I'm gonna tread along. Alex Smith, let's go. Let's get it going. 306 yards passing this week. Let's get over 300 with some more touchdowns versus the terrible Tampa Bay defense. Let's go. Thomas Take isn't here to take part. He's here to take over.